And we're coming to you live from the Built Ford Top Studio. Boomer Esiason, Greg Giannotti. It's Boomer and Gio on the Fan. Simulcast across the country on CBS Sports Network and wherever you are in the free Odyssey app. Good Friday morning. Yes, a feel-good football Friday. There are only 3 left of these. We got divisional weekend. We have championship weekend, championship Sunday. Then we have the feel-good football Friday we will have out in Las Vegas before the Super Bowl. So things are dwindling with this football season. And the NFL mimicking the NBA in one way going into this weekend. I think the stuff that is happening off the field is more interesting than what we may have on the field. Because there's one game that I think is going to be great. We all think is going to be great with the Bills and the Chiefs. The rest of them, they got blowout potential. Now, you never know what's going to happen. Maybe you get an upset. Maybe you get something crazy, something memorable. But what's going on in the coaching ranks right now is nuts. And Bill Belichick is really inching closer and closer to becoming the Atlanta Falcons head coach. I think he said to himself, NFC South sucks. Tom Brady went there, won that division. I'm going to go down there. I'm going to win some divisions, get into the playoffs, and I'm going to be a hero for the city of Atlanta. Good morning, Boomer. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, G. And I would say that is definitely going to happen. You know, I feel
definitely going to happen.
Yep. Definitely feel like it's fait accompli. They have to go through all the nuts and bolts of a contract. They have to make sure they meet all the requirements of the Rooney Rule and everything else. And I feel bad for guys that have to go through the Rooney Rule just to go through the Rooney Rule so a team can ultimately get to the guy that they want. I feel sometimes these guys, the black coaches, end up getting used for situations like this, and I hate that. I want guys to be hired on merit, and I don't want guys to feel like these things, interviews are shams. And I remember talking to Marvin Lewis, who ended up doing a couple of interviews, I believe, a few years back, if you remember.
Yeah.
Nobody really thought he was going to have a chance, and I love Marvin Lewis. I thought he was a terrific coach for the Bengals. I thought he was exactly what the Bengals needed, a low-key kind of get-along coach with the ownership and just deal with everything that he had to deal with. And he really did have an impact. He had a long career as the Cincinnati Bengal head coach, but I remember when he was being asked to take these interviews, and I would always wonder why a coach who probably felt like, you know what, this is kind of a sham interview. You know, why am I doing this to my other coaches that are dealing with some of the same things that I dealt with throughout my career? And
just something on that quick, though. It's
yes.
when it's the veteran coach, you're absolutely right. When it's the guy who has coached forever or someone who already had a head coaching job and you feel like they're just trotting them through, that's one thing. But I remember Kirby Wilson was a running back coach, black running back coach for the Steelers when I was out there. And I talked to him about this one day, and he said that yes, sometimes it feels like a sham, but there's a lot of guys, younger guys, black
that's
coaches that never got a chance to interview and get experience from it. That is great. But the older guys, you're right. I mean, when you get some of these guys, you feel like, hey, Marvin, just come in here, let's have a cup of coffee so I could satisfy this thing. That's when it feels wrong.
You know, it's kind of interesting. It goes both ways, too, because if I remember correctly, Todd Bowles and Frank Reich were up for the Jets job. And Frank, took the interview. He had never had an interview before. And I said, Frank, what do you think the chances of you getting the job are? And he goes, it's probably unlikely. I think they probably had their eyes set on Todd.
Yeah.
And he, it wasn't about race or any of that stuff. It's just that it was about Todd's time. Mm-hmm. And Frank was a relatively unknown in the league. I mean, they knew him in the league, but outside, not a lot of people knew who he was or where he came from or what his credentials were. And this was prior to the Philadelphia Super Bowl. And I'll never forget, picking him up over there at Florham Park. I said, he goes, you know what? I'm glad I did it, even though I know I'm not going to get it, because it really gives me an understanding as to what my potentially next interview is going to be like.
Sure, yep.
So you're right. There is something about a young coordinator that hasn't had an opportunity to go interview. That's how they found Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh.
Yep.
And he's only lasted, 16 years, 17 years?
And he was only a defensive coordinator for 1 year prior to that.
It's not even a Coach Cowher will tell you that it's not so much, the amount of experience that you have as a coordinator. What it really is, it's about your communication techniques and can you get through to the players that you're coaching. And because the team is so vast and there's so many players, there's just so many different personalities that you have to deal with. And, the guys that last the longest, like the Andy Reids, now, if they're lucky enough, they'll get a great quarterback. So, obviously, Mike Tomlin inherited Ben Roethlisberger. So that certainly helps the transition, and it's going to give you an opportunity to possibly go win a Super Bowl. And they've always drafted well out there in Pittsburgh for the most part. They always seem to get the right guy, whether it be a wide receiver or a linebacker, for God's sake. So I hate the sham interview, and I sometimes I think it does a disservice for those black head coaches. But I also know that there are instances where those coaches do end up getting jobs just simply because of the Rooney Rule, and I think Mike Tomlin is a prime example of that.
Yeah, but I mean, Bill Belichick being available and wanting to coach, someone was going to hire him. I mean, and this is not some regular head coach who's getting another opportunity who maybe shouldn't, like an Adam Gase. I mean, this is Bill Belichick, the most decorated head coach of his generation. So someone was going to hire him.
Well, there's no question. I mean, you could say the same thing about Pete Carroll. You could say the same thing about Mike Vrabel. But all three extremely successful head coaches for different reasons, and of course at different ages. And I think that everything that I've read out of Atlanta is that everything went smoothly. It went smoothly. The initial meeting with Arthur Blank. There's people in that building down there that are comfortable with Bill Belichick. He's comfortable with them. So I just think it's a matter of time before this thing gets announced. And, it's amazing. I think we were talking about this. I feel like 5 weeks ago we were talking about where would he go if, in fact, he decided to leave and Bob Kraft let him leave. And who would replace Bill Belichick in New England? If Bill ends up going to Atlanta, and now with Gerard Mayo taking over for Bill in New England, everybody's pretty much spot on.
Well, yeah.
All the predictions are pretty much spot on.
I mean, the Falcons came out of nowhere, though, in this thing. Like, I'm sorry. We talked about the Commanders. We talked about the Bears. We talked about the Chargers. I didn't think that the Atlanta Falcons would have been a place he went until Adam Schefter threw that out there immediately when Bill Belichick was announced that him and Robert Kraft were parting ways, where he said that Arthur Blank has taken some runs at some big coaches before. Now Bill Belichick's available, sort of dropping that hint. And I was like, really? You'd go to the Falcons? And I don't know. I mean, seeing into the future is impossible in the NFL, but I feel like the way that it ended in New England, and now he's going to take this Falcons job, I think that his legacy towards the end here is going to be tarnished because unless he gets a really good quarterback, he's going to suck down.
All right, so
he's going to suck down there with a Falcons logo on a hoodie, and it's going to look stupid. And if I were him, I would have just gone away. I'm 70-something years old. I got all the money in the world.
Nope.
I'm going to find a new girlfriend somewhere. I'm going to buy a house on Martha's Vineyard. I'm going to sit there and drink Sauvignon Blanc and make fun of all the other idiot coaches in the NFL.
You don't know Bill Belichick. He wants that record. He wants the coach. That's his life. That's what he does.
You're not getting it with the Atlanta Falcons.
And by the way, Tom Brady left for the Tampa Bay Bucks. So same division, same conference, obviously. And Tom Brady won a Super Bowl with the Bucks. So I would say, depending on who their quarterback is going to be down there, and they're going to wipe out that quarterback room for sure, that will determine how far they can go. I mean, they do have good players. They have some of the most explosive offensive players in the league, and they'll add to that, I'm sure, because Arthur Blank's getting up there, like Jerry Jones is getting up there, like a lot of these guys are getting up there, and they want to win. So, look, he wants to coach. He wants to set the record. He has every right to go, back and do that. I don't care with what franchise, but I do think you're right. I think it's the NFC South. Baker Mayfield led his team to the playoffs. They got to go on the road now to Detroit. I don't know what the Panthers are doing. The Saints are, stuck with Derek Carr. I mean, this is an opportunity of a lifetime, if you ask me. If you pick the right team, like Tom Brady picked the right team. Yeah. But Tom Brady was the quarterback, the most integral part of all of it, and he had Bruce Arians as his coach. I think if Bill Belichick can find the right quarterback, I do like that, Kirk. I do like that. No, but if he can find the right quarterback, that would be the thing. And I don't know.
And that's the thing that people are talking about now. I think Kirk Cousins was asked about it. Was it on Kay Adams? It wasn't on Kay Adams, wherever he was. He was asked about it and said, opportunity to play with a Super Bowl winning head coach and a Hall of Famer would be great. We got to see what happens in March. And yeah, it feels like the Minnesota Vikings are done with Kirk Cousins, especially after the injury, and that.
Well, they got Zach Wilson coming.
That could be a mistake, or they're going to. I don't know.
They got Zach Wilson coming.
I got my ear to the ground. Ear to the ground.
You get your Fat Perez shirt on again today.
Yeah, I do.
Listen, your Fat Perez. It's gonna
ear to
be
the ground.
And Zach Wilson and Michael Penix.
Okay. Then if you draft a guy, then that's great. But there is Last year, they tried desperately to trade up to get Anthony Richardson. I think this year they're going to desperately trade up to get one of these top guys, one of these top 3 guys. And Penix might fall to them where they are, but I would not be surprised if they gave some sort of ridiculous package to go up and get one of these other guys. But we'll see. And
I'm just thinking Michael Penix in a dome with Justin Jefferson and Madison and Hawkinson. Oh my God!
Yeah, that would be great. I'm fine with that. The Zach Wilson thing, I'm not fine with. But anyway, so Kirk could probably go to the Atlanta Falcons, and then he's back in a dome, and he's got those weapons, and he got a veteran quarterback and all that stuff. But, I mean, Bill Belichick better have an offensive coordinator who knows what he's doing, because he has proven that he cannot hire a coaching staff if Josh McDaniels is not there.
What happens if Gerard Mayo decides to go with Josh McDaniels as an OC, and they go on and they draft, obviously, a young quarterback again, and they somehow figure it out, and they go on to win without Bill Belichick in New England?
Yeah, I mean, that would be...
That to me is more damaging, I think, right now than Tom Brady going and winning a Super Bowl down in Tampa to Bill's kind of legacy. Like, if somehow Gerard Mayo and Josh McDaniels all stay together up there in New England, which is a possibility, I guess, that would be unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, Josh McDaniels goes down to Atlanta with Bill Belichick. That's the best situation. And Bill O'Brien's now going to Ohio State, so that is out of the mix. Bill's worked with very few guys that he trusts. When he gets those guys there, they're there for a long time. Whether it was Charlie Weiss, Josh McDaniels, Bill O'Brien, those guys.
Matt Patricia.
Matt Patricia.
Joe Judge.
Yeah, so there's guys he's trusted in his world. If Bill O'Brien's got a different job, Josh McDaniels doesn't come back, obviously these other guys are not going to be around. I mean, I don't know, man. Like, who is going to be his offensive coordinator? That would be if I were Arthur Blank, I'd say, I'm not hiring you unless Josh McDaniels is with you.
Phil gave me a pretty good idea yesterday, depending on who their quarterback is. Maybe this Greg Roman. Like, if they somehow ended up with Justin Fields, and you put Greg Roman with Justin Fields and Bill Belichick with the defense.
And Greg Roman was the offensive coordinator for the Ravens. And
Lamar Jackson, for a lot of years, that he had a lot of success. Obviously, then they went to Todd Monken, and Lamar had by far his best year this year, and most likely is going to run away with the MVP vote by virtue of beating both the Dolphins and the 49ers late in the season. And that's why I think it's a different Lamar. This is a team, man, I think that had 8 victories versus winning teams with 14 or more points spread in the victory. And Lamar has been unbelievable. And now he has not had a great postseason run. I think he's only got 1 win and 3 losses, and his numbers are really terrible in the postseason. But I feel like this year he's different. I feel like he is ready to roll, and he's got this chip on his shoulder, finally getting that contract. They may get Mark Andrews back this week. I just think he's like a different player this year, and I think he's going to have a monster game against Houston on Sunday.
Yeah,
Saturday, actually, Saturday.
I mean, he better, because he's done everything else. He's going to win another MVP. That's 2 MVPs for him. He's had great regular seasons. And it all comes down to this, sort of the same situation with Dak Prescott, and everybody was on him, and he lays an egg again. Lamar Jackson, same stuff. Like, you've done it all, but you haven't won that huge game in the postseason. So, all right. So, what do you think where's Jim Harbaugh going to go? L.A.?
I still think the Chargers, yes.
All right. Where's Vrabel going to go?
I don't know if he's going to go anywhere right now. He may end up going with Bill as the defense coordinator down in Atlanta. You never know. The other thing, too, is I do believe that Ben Johnson's going to get a job. He's the offensive coordinator for the Detroit Lions. I also think Bobby Slowick's got a really good chance of getting one of these jobs. He's the offense coordinator for Houston. And, they're running that offense with C.J. Stroud, who's had a monster year as a rookie quarterback that, everybody else is running, that Green Bay's running, Miami's running, San Francisco's running, the Houston Texans are running it's kind of the modified West Coast Kyle Shanahan, Mike Shanahan offense.
Yeah. I'm just looking at this graphic here.
I think Raheem Morris is going to have a shot for the Commanders. I also think, I'm trying to think, the offense coordinator for the Miami Dolphins may get one of these jobs. We think that Dan Quinn has the inside spot there in Seattle.
Yeah, and I mean the coaching carousel board here is it's crazy. I mean, it's just absolutely nuts.
I do think Antonio Pierce has got a really good shot at the Raiders job.
I mean, is anybody else interviewed out there? I haven't heard a thing.
They're interviewing people.
Like who, though? I mean, they didn't interview Harbaugh. They didn't interview Vrabel, did they? I mean, if those guys are available and you're not interviewing them, what the hell are you doing? I mean, I guess that means that they're keeping Antonio Pierce.
I feel like that's going to be the case, and I feel like that's what the players want.
Well, it's not feels like. I mean, Devontae Adams and Max Crosby, the leaders of that team, flat out came out and said it, that they only want to play for Antonio Pierce.
Which is amazing because he has such a short period of time to turn that thing around. And it also goes to show you that maybe, just maybe, Josh McDaniels was so screwed up that, they stopped playing for him.
Yeah, well, he can't be a head coach. Can't lead a locker room, can't be in tune, can't be a head coach. Can be a great offensive coordinator. We've seen that. Cannot be a good head coach. So that's why I think Bill's got to reunite with him down there in Atlanta. And then the next thing is, who the hell is going to play quarterback for them? Is it Justin Fields? He's got to have a plan. Bill, when he's talking to Arthur Blank later today, and they probably hammer out a contract, they have to have talked either in the first interview or the second interview who he wants and how he's going to get him.
Well, the first interview is basically getting to know each other, talking about different things. What do you think about my team? What does my team need? What do you think about my building? Can you get along with the people in the building? That kind of stuff that they go through. And I'm sure that Arthur wanted to know about, scheduling and how he runs things. And, can you handle this, this athlete? It'd be interesting to see how the Atlanta Falcon players respond to this.
I mean, don't you think they'd be excited about it?
I would like to think they are, but you never know. I mean, in league circles, players from New England are probably saying, look, man, he's not a lot of fun to be around, and there is no tweeting or posting on X. There's no Instagramming. There's no TikToking. There's none of that stuff. That's all going to be a part of the game plan or the playbook when they get it, or the iPad when they get it. And it will say the Surface, I guess the
Microsoft Surface, yes.
They'll get it, and the rules will be like this. These are your responsibilities when it comes to dealing with social media and things like that. And I'm not so sure that, some of these guys are going to really like that.
All right, Boomer and Gio just getting started on this feel-good football Friday. Bill Belichick looks like he's going to be the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. We have divisional playoff weekend. CeeLo in. Jerry has he has the regular flu, not the stomach virus, not the neurovirus, the regular flu, which is not a good thing either. So we're hitting these illnesses from all angles here on Boomer and Gio. We've had COVID run through here. Now we have the regular flu that's running through here. All we need is the neurovirus and maybe croup. Maybe we'll get a little taste of croup as well.
We did have, what did Allie have?
Oh, Allie had eye COVID or something, eye crust virus. I don't know.
Got to ask her what it was.
I mean, it was...
She out there?
It was rough.
Yeah.
Whatever it was. She had to wear the glasses and stuff. I mean, it
yeah.
looked like someone put super glue on her eyelids.